Hello everybody, Bubbles Zest here, and this is Hearts of Iron 4. In today's video, we're going to be ranking all 6 paths in the British focus tree. So, let's get started. Number 6 and number 5. Anyone who's played Britain before knows this one was coming. Here it is. It's concessions to the trade unions. Oh man, there is just so much going on with this tree. So, let's take it from the top, shall we? I do not like this tree at all. There's just so much wrong with it. First up, concessions to the trade unions itself. The actual concessions you get are alright, but you actually have to do a load of concessions just to flip communist, and it will take you until like May 1937 to get through all of them. That is a relatively long time in Hearts of Iron 4 terms to flip ideology. That is bad enough, but then you have to do decolonization. Now of course, you can do the decolonization tree in tandem with flipping communist, but it takes so damn long. Just finishing up all of that can take into 1938, early 1939, depending on what focuses you want to do. And what benefit does this actually give you? Nothing. You throw away the empire for some political power and a tiny bit of extra manpower. With any other path, when it comes to decolonization, you could just not do the final focus and have all your puppets to have some sort of vassal swarm effect. But that's the problem with the communist tree. You have to do decolonization. You have to get rid of all of your puppets or there will be a civil war. Now of course, before someone brings it up, yes, you can ignore it. But is that really a positive in the communist tree's favour? I don't think it is. It's just shooting yourself again and again and again. And that's before you even get into the actual meat of the tree. And before I forget it, this path has the least interesting way to keep control of the dominions. You can only do it via move to secure the dominions, which does work, but compared to what all other changing course trees can do, is rather slow and tedious. From there, you have focuses like eliminate the upper class, which gets rid of your good field marshals and generals. Yay! But then you come down to the two actual paths themselves, the British Communist Alternative and Follow Moscow. The British Communist Alternative is so pointless, I've done a What's the Point episode on it. That should tell you everything you need to know. But if you haven't seen it, what you actually get by doing this path is a faction almost no one will join and enforce decolonization, which is an RNG dice roll war goals. Because maybe some countries will decolonize, but some won't and you might get a war goal on them. Who knows, it's completely out of the player's control. But the other problem with enforcing decolonization is more to do with Hearts of Iron 4 itself. The more countries there are in the game, the more the game lags. I'm sure many of you have seen this before when countries decolonize. So basically what you're doing is you're lagging the game for no goddamn reason. But then there's the final focus of this whole tree, Spirit of the Industrial Revolution. I remind you, you've blown up the entirety of the empire, gotten rid of a load of things, so there should be some really good rewards at the end of this. So what does this give? 10% output on dockyards and factories. You did all of that shit, and you got 10% output? Who thought this was a good trade? Who? It's not a good trade. Like, this path at its best is Follow Moscow, because at the very least, Follow Moscow has the achievement Crush the Dream. But even then, if you really want to take down the United States as Britain, all you have to do is do the naval treaties trick, and you can do it in 1936. This tree, on the whole, offers nothing. This is why I'm doing number 6 and number 5 together. They're pretty much the same, and they have the same upsides and downsides. But if you must know, the British Communist alternative would be number 6, and Follow Moscow would be number 5, purely because it has that achievement. I know, it's like a golden turd on the top of a pile of shit, but that's what it is. At least there's an achievement there. That's something. But you know, if I'm saying the best part of this tree is an achievement, you know I'm clutching at straws for a positive here. Number 4. Home defense. Now, if this path was on any other country apart from Britain, I'd probably call it a bad path, because most of this tree is locked behind things that the player generally cannot influence. Focuses like Secure Iraq, Secure Iran, Scandinavian intervention, Benelux intervention, all of these focuses assume that party popularity in other countries will rise. And generally, that is completely out of the player's control. Then of course you have focuses like Issue Gas Masks, Military Training Act. These require world tension to be high. Now, to be fair, world tension rising is generally a given, but if you're in ahistorical, you could find yourself in a situation where you're locked out of these focuses, and that's kind of annoying. In fact, there's only one focus in this whole tree that doesn't have that sort of prerequisite, and that's Prepare for the Inevitable, which gives extra factory output and extra military factory construction speed. That's pretty good. However, you're probably wondering why this tree is at number 4 when it has all these problems. And it's quite simple. This tree is Britain's historical path. So I can't really blame Paradox for making it this way. It has to be this way. If it wasn't, we'd be calling it out for being ahistorical when it shouldn't be. You know, it's kind of a lose-lose situation for Paradox. But if we're honest, this tree does everything it needs to do. It puts Britain in an okay situation for the start of the war, gives you some focuses to go after in the late game. It's okay, it's fine, that's all it needs to be. Number 3. No further appeasement. So, recently I've done a video on this path because I actually haven't played it that much. So go and watch it if you want to see some further thoughts on it. That being said, however, I do get why this path is popular. There's a lot to like about it. For one, the national spirit, no further appeasement itself. It's pretty good. I mean, just being able to justify at 35% world tension as a democratic country? Nice. But even better, in my opinion, is the game rule change that comes with the same focus. The one that allows you to puppet countries in peace deals. Remember, democratic countries are only allowed to do supervised states. But because of this game rule change, you can have normal puppets, and so you can eventually send them down to integrated and even annex them if you want. That is underrated and very, very nice. Then of course you have the focus secure the oil imports. Or, as it really should be called, secure the Dutch East Indies, because it's pretty easy to invade the Netherlands and get all those puppets, get all those war reps, get those resource rights. But, even more important than that, in my opinion, is the border you will get with Germany. Now, most of the time, Germany will just be able to defend their ports, but with this, you will have a direct border with them. That is the best part of that focus. It makes rolling over Germany when they do Sudetenland so easy. However, this tree does have some downsides, so let's go over them. For one, just like the communist tree, this tree does take a while to get started. Like, you can't do motion of no confidence until Stanley Baldwin resigns in like mid-1937. Look, if I criticise the communist tree for taking too long, I have to criticise this for doing the same. The difference, however, is that once this path gets started, it really does get started. But it's still a really short tree. Beyond no further appeasement, there's realistically only 6 focuses you can do, because remember one of the paths is mutually exclusive. So you have the choice between maintaining imperial integrity and maintaining the balance of power. The problem is both of these are just kind of okay. The better of the two is definitely imperial integrity, just because it makes forming the Imperial Federation slightly faster. Enforcing the naval treaties is kind of pointless. Again, if you really want to do things with the naval treaties, do the naval treaties trick. It's much better. And continental intervention will just give you war goals on countries that are probably going to invade you anyway. Germany, Italy, maybe the Soviets. So if I'm honest, I'll probably just ignore both of these because they don't offer that much. But the biggest thing is, you're still a democratic country. Most people talking about this tree made it seem like you could go on a democratic world conquest. And to an extent, I'm sure you can, again due to the naval treaty stuff, but you're still democratic. You can only justify in countries that have raised world tension, and not too many of them will do that. Although, I'm sure in ahistorical, that will come up a bit more often. Again, it's fine, it's probably the best democratic tree, but there's only so much you can realistically do with this path. Number 2. The King's Party. In a similar vein to the last path in this video, the King's Party has a very, very nice national spirit of the same name. The best part of this, again, is to generate war goal tension limit minus 50%. Because of that, you can justify war goals at 10% world tension. I'm sure many of you who have played non-aligned Germany can attest to getting stuck because of the tension limit. Normally, non-aligned countries can't justify until 50% world tension. With this, that's not a problem. And speaking of Germany, alliance with Germany allows you to get rid of one of your main rivals by aligning yourself with them. Then of course you have to deal with the dominions. Personally, in my opinion, appealing to imperial loyalists isn't all that good, but I like the option. How I like to deal with the dominions is normally just to justify on one of them and take them all in one go. And if I can get India in that same war, that's just even better. So unlike the communist tree, which is very slow, you can reclaim the dominions fairly easily. From there, you come on to the main thing, taking down the US itself. Now, as long as you've done Unite the Anglosphere, you can get the extra cores in the US via the Imperial Federation. Or, you could create the Kingdom of America. Is it the most realistic thing in Hoi 4? Nope, far from it. But is it a funny little flavour thing? Definitely, and I like it. It comes pretty much out of nowhere. It's great. However, the thing is, most of these things come from the God Save the King tree, and that is shared with another path. And another path that I think can use this just as well, if not better. Then, of course, there is the fact you have to wait for Edward to marry Wallis Simpson before you can start this path. Although, it must be said, however, it's not that bad. He marries her by late 36 and you can get started. It's not as bad as some of the other paths in this tree. However, this path wouldn't be number 2 if it wasn't good in its own right. And it is. You got plenty of achievements, plenty of options, plenty of replayability. It's a great tree and that's nothing to complain about. And finally, at last, number 1. Organise the black shirts. Full disclosure on this one, I am completely biased. The only reason this is at number 1 is because of the fast Imperial Federation strat. In case you're not aware, I came up with this strategy. As far as I know, no one talked about it until I did. Now, I'm fully aware people have improved upon it since I did it, but still, being able to come up with a strategy is something that doesn't come around very often, and so I'm very proud of it. What's funny is, the way you're meant to play this path is to slowly improve Oswald Mosley's traits, because he starts with the trait Champion of Peace, making you unable to justify until 100% world tension. But by doing that strat, you basically ignore that because you spike world tension so high. And so, because of that, you become basically unstoppable before 1937. Alright, Bubbles, I get it, but what are some of the other benefits to this path, I hear you say? Fair enough, let's go over them. One of the big ones, in my opinion, is the mechanics of the black shirt marches themselves. There's a good balance of trying to flip quickly, but also good strategy. Because, you can flip quickly via the Civil War, but maybe you don't want that. So if you don't, you have to keep your stability high, but also make sure you have support coming in quickly. I like that. I think Paradox likes it too, because they reuse it for Estonia's focus tree. Then, of course, you have Secure the Italian Alliance. Sure, it's not as good as an alliance with Germany, but an alliance with a major is still an alliance with a major. Then, of course, there's the bonuses that come with the ideology. You can go up to war economy and extensive conscription. Non-aligned can't do that. That's an upgrade too. But as you might expect, it all comes around again to the Fast Imperial Federation. Because of doing that strat, you can just rush down the focus tree. You can rush down to things like expose the belly of the bear much faster than the King's Party. So you can get those puppets faster. You can do Imperial Conscription faster. You can do the Sun Never Sets faster. That's the thing. It's just faster. And considering Hoi 4 games can last hours and hours and hours, sometimes you just want something that can be quick, fast, and fun. And to me, that is what this path is. And that, as we say, is that. Before we finish up, quick shout out to Revisit Colonial Policy and Reinforce the Empire. Both of them are pretty interesting, and you can have a lot of varied games with them. The problem is, I didn't really feel like they were appropriate to talk about in this ranking. Although, for the remaining paths we did talk about, it was pretty fun. I don't play Britain that much, so whenever we get an opportunity to do so, it's usually pretty enjoyable. So, until next time everybody, I thank you for watching, I do hope you've enjoyed it, and until we meet again, from me, Bubbles Zest, goodbye. By the way, we do not talk about Poland.